day, conscious entrepreneurs and creatives. How are you? Hope everybody is doing great. I am super, as always, I feel like I say this every week. I'm so excited to be talking about this topic because I think it's fun. I'm just going to double check the check here. So I am, if you're live or even on the replay, I am trying out some new technology. I've tested it a few times, but this is my first time testing it in here. So let me know how the video move my hands. Anyway, any feedback that you can share would be super helpful. Thank you so much in advance. And today is going to be an interesting topic, and I'm sharing it because it's something that I see a lot. It's something I've seen in my own business. And it's something that that I can kind of start to just energetically feel when I start to meet with new clients, new people, even just on a discovery call. This is something that I see playing out a lot. And so it's something that I want to talk about because I really want to share this message, share this learning, share this, hopefully this can be a new awareness for you around how this dynamic is playing out in your business. And I'm going to tell you what it is in a second, but how it's playing out in your business, because for most of us, it's playing out in some way, shape, or form. And once you are aware of it, sorry, I'm just going to move this computer a little bit. Once you're aware of it and once you're able to understand it, it's actually not super hard to shift it and turn this, as I said in today's topic. This is about how you can take something that you might be using your business to run away from and take it and turn it into one of your superpowers or one of your secret weapons. And this is something that I see in so many businesses. And God, now I'm just thinking of this, like there are so many other businesses, bigger companies, bigger global companies where you can kind of see this dynamic happening. I might do a whole separate live on that. But because it's not specific to the online space, it's very much human nature, and it's just a dynamic that plays out in society in many ways. And so there's nothing wrong with it. And I just want to start by saying this, like there's nothing wrong with this dynamic. There's nothing wrong with you if this is happening. It just simply means you're human. But noticing where this plays out and how to take this and not let it turn into your fatal flaw, but instead let it turn into your superpower. Okay, so yeah, I'm sorry, I'm having a little bit of a trouble with my setup here. I'm gonna see how this goes. Okay, so God, I've tried this 3 times and this has never bothered me. Okay, let me know if you can't hear me or see me. But I think it's not a technology thing. I just don't think I have it set up the way I want it, and I will keep playing with it. That's the thing I always tell my clients, like keep playing with things in your business and experiment and give yourself a chance to find the just right spot. So so I'm going to even do this with technology and my desk setup. Okay, so what today we're talking about. So this is something that I see so often in business is people are using their business to run away from something. And I want to talk about this for the first maybe half of this conversation, and then we're going to talk about, so what the hell do you do about it? What do you do with this? It's not even a problem to solve, but this is a sweet spot to find. This is an opportunity to find a sweet spot for yourself where you can really catapult your business and your impact and your income when you can find this sweet spot. And I think this is something that really helps people when they're pivoting. So if you're in a transition, or you're thinking about sending your business into a pivot or a transition, maybe tweaking or evolving, your business and what you offer to the next level or to whatever is the next chapter for you, this might be a good one for you too. So how you might be using your business to run away from something. So I want to start by saying that as always, I'm speaking to you, conscious entrepreneurs and creatives, my heart-centered friends. I'm speaking specifically, again, I see this play out in other companies, but we're talking specifically about people who are running businesses that are deeply meaningful and personal to them. They want to run their service and impact to the world. They have some sort of mission, right? All of you that are in this beautiful group. And so with that, and we're assuming then that you started your business from the perspective of wanting to create some sort of impact, right? Wanting to, and that doesn't mean that it's just an impact on the world. I'm just double checking to make sure that I'm live in here. It doesn't just mean that you're interested in making an impact on the world, but it also means that there's something there that's fulfilling for you, right? Okay, there I am. Okay, so assuming that's the basis upon which this conversation is happening. Assuming that, most likely, I'm going to be willing to bet that many, many, many people, not everyone, but many people had some other career, vocation, or chapter in their lives preceding them starting a business. Now, some people start, a member on my team started a business before she even graduated from college, but a lot of, and that I think that's the beauty of this like evolution that's happening in our society, where more and more people are starting businesses and open to and seeing the power in what they can just create on their own. But I think a lot of people, and if you didn't have a single new, if your business is the work that you've always done in the world, you can still benefit from this conversation. In fact, I think it might be even more sneaky in your case. So listen up. But if you take the assumption that a lot of people started this business from a perspective of moving out of one thing and into another, right? Even if what you're doing now is something that you've always done, but you maybe you used to work for someone else and now and now you work for yourself. Sorry, I'm getting distracted because my neck is hurting. I'm just going to be completely transparent here. As you guys know, I've been dealing with some neck issues, and my neck has been doing so good, but now I'm working on a new computer today, and I don't like it. And I can't change it. Oh, maybe I can. Let me try this. My apologies. Thank you for bearing with me. So, if you started this business with moving from something into something, even if it's the same work, it's just from working for someone versus working for yourself, chances are you saw some things in your previous chapter, in your previous vocation, in your previous career, or even in your family growing up that caused you to notice something that you that you thought could be better, should be better, right? Most likely your mission with your business is to create some sort of change, right? As Gandhi said, that you want to see in the world. Well, he said be the change, but to create some change that you want to see in the world. Maybe your mission is to help people with these problems, to help people feel better about blah, 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 to reach their goals around this, to be happy, to be more fulfilled, to make more money, to find relief in the middle of a crisis. Like whatever it is that you're offering with your business and your mission, chances are it is for the purpose of helping people find more joy and or less pain. That you're solving some sort of problem, right? And so, or making people's lives better. Most likely, when you set out to do this, there's probably something in your past that you didn't like. Something in your past that you thought wasn't right, that you thought therefore. But some people therefore started their businesses to do the exact opposite. If that's not you, there may also be an element of, I think everybody has this in some way, shape, or form. I'm going to run my own business. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do this mission, and I'm going to run my business this way, right? People don't just create heart-centered businesses out of thin air, right? Because back in the day, business had a bad rap. I had to work through that mindset for myself around being able to even decide that there was such a thing as a heart-centered business, right? And so if you want that, what in your business did you set out to create that you also made clear decisions around what you're not going to do? Let me know if this is making sense. So, for example, I know a lot of people said, okay, I'm going to start my own business. I see a change I want to see in the world, and I'm going to use my powers for good. But I am not gonna this, and this, right? What are your I'm not gonna, or I'm determined not to do it that way? Business, and that's appropriate. We now know that there's a heart-centered, purpose-driven way that you can have a sales conversation with someone, for example. And a lot of times I'll just use the royal we are in our businesses determined to do it a certain way, which also means we're determined not to do it a certain way. And so these are some examples, just slowly starting out this conversation, of things that you may have set out to not do, right? I want to achieve this mission. I want to feel fulfilled. I want to make this amount of money. I want to serve these kinds of people. I want to work in this way. I want to work this many hours, right? All of the things that you set out to do. And this is a never evolving conversation for most people. Like the pace and the dollars and the who you serve and all of that can evolve and adjust over time. That you don't want to do. And that's not wrong. That's normal. That's what we do as humans. And that's how, like Abraham Hicks would say, like when you find what you don't want to do, then you know what you do want to do, or at least you know how to get started in the process of what you do want to do, or how you do want to do it, right? So to use the sales perspective, I don't want to run a business where when I have sales conversations with people that it feels icky, and then I feel like the only way I can make a sale is to be pushy or coercive and talk somebody into it. So I'm damn determined to only have flowy sales conversations, and maybe you run it to the other end of the extreme. That's like, I'm not even going to make somebody an offer because I don't want to feel pushy, right? And this is where that what you don't want, or the thing that you're running away from, is what I'm calling it today, in your business, you have two choices. It can either be the source of your greatest joy and the source of your superpower and your zone of genius and your ability to flip from what you don't want to what you do want, right? A lot of people who teach sales, with sales as their specialty, a lot of them had a hard time with sales in the first place. Maybe they felt insecure. Maybe they felt like they were first taught and forced into a space of sales that felt pushy and icky and inauthentic and whatever. And so they were determined not to do it that way and to create a way that felt good, right? So that's not wrong. That's how we get to where we want to go. And we have that choice. And I like to offer this for you because I think it is a really clear decision to make, and we might not even be aware, just like the saying goes, like you have a choice in the matter, even if you choose not to recognize or even see that you have a choice. I think this is something that I want to let you know, that you have a choice, and let you know that you can have awareness around this that you may or may not be even seeing in your business. Where in this sales example, you have a choice to say, this is going to become my superpower. I am going to create what I do want in this scenario. Or we can be so focused on fighting against the thing that we don't want and being so fucking determined not to be pushy that instead we become so dramatically opposite. We swing the pendulum the other way that then we do ourselves a disservice. We do our business a disservice. We do our income a disservice. And frankly, we do our clients a disservice when, in this example, we don't make an offer, or we don't make a clear offer, or we don't make it clear to the person on the other side that we want to work with them, that we want to sell them our thing, that we want to give them our service, because we're so determined not to be pushy and icky that we go so far back that it then becomes what I like to call your fatal flaw, which is a very dramatic, like Shakespearean term, but it can really shoot you in the foot. It can make, if nothing else, it can just make running your business harder. And I am very big, one of the things that I ran away from in corporate was red tape, overcomplication, think like having a meeting to prepare for the meeting with the client that we're going to have a meeting with the client about, like the meeting for the meeting for the meeting. Oh my God, it just all felt blah, 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 right? And I'm being dramatic, and I actually am very grateful and appreciative of the corporate experience that I had, and it wasn't bad. But there were things that I wanted to run away from, and ways and things that I was determined not to do in my business because of my corporate experience, which is just my previous life, where when you are so determined to fight against versus just to create what you do want, there is that sweet spot in between where it's like you're making choices. And usually this comes out in our strategies and in our practical elements of business. I'm going to talk about a few examples that I've seen so you can start to see like maybe where this is playing out in your business, because everybody manifests this differently. Everybody's choice points are in different places. But where you can start to see, okay, what didn't feel good. Here's why it didn't feel good. Here's what specifically didn't feel good about it. And then here's what I'd like to do instead, right? And then your choice point is really carefully chosen. I challenge you to, when you're in that moment, and it doesn't matter, like this isn't about like, you have to do this when you start your business. At any point in time, you could be in business 10 years and today start to see, oh, I see, I wanted to run away from that in my last career or my last business or my last thing that I did. And then I made a choice in this business to keep fighting it. You have a choice to keep fighting it, or you have a choice just to create the new. And this is almost like splitting hairs, but I think there actually is a real difference between fighting what you don't want and deciding to create what you do want, or just putting your focus and attention on what you do want. And this isn't about, and this is where I think a lot of people I talk about this all the time, a lot of people around law of attraction get confused by the law of attraction because they think it means that you can't look at the bad. You can't think about the bad. You can't have any negative emotions. You can't, like, it's all bad, because then it means you're just attracting the shit, right? And that's not true, and that's not exactly what we're going to talk about today. So if you're not familiar with law of attraction, go check it out. But what I do think is true, or what is true, is that what you don't want is typically that like seed or that starting point of like, ooh, I don't like this. And the I don't like this is just your indication. The negative, I don't actually think that negative feelings are negative. I think feelings are just feelings, emotions are just emotions. But what we call negative emotions, the ones that don't feel good in our body, are indicators. They're signs for, oh, okay, something's not working here. What adjustment can we make? But that's really what it's for. And then it's really important to let go of what you don't want and to just move in and focus on what you do want and find new and creative ways to create what you do want. And when you can do that, and we're going to talk about a little bit how to do that today too, but when you can do that, that's when the rubber really meets the road and business becomes much easier, because you're not only choosing services and people to serve that really get you into, this is honestly, at the end of the day, kind of about redialing back into your mission, and dialing into what your mission is creating, not what your mission is fighting against. I'm going to say that again. What is your mission? And a question. What is your mission creating? What are you creating with your mission? And how can you, with that, how can you be very intentional when you answer that question? That answer is about what you're creating and how you want people to feel and how you want it to be and what you want it to look like versus what you don't want it to look like and how you don't want people to feel, right? To give you some examples so that hopefully this will ground if it's not making sense or if it's like, so that you can start to find an example in your business. Yeah, I'll start with an example. So I'll give you an example from my business because I think this is a really an easy one to see. So in my corporate career, again, I am not knocking my corporate career. I'm grateful for my corporate career. It was the absolute right thing for me to be doing at the time in which I did it. I met some amazing people. I did some really cool work, and I get to use that work and that experience to help people that I deeply, deeply, deeply want to serve because I had 18 years of experience in business before I ever started my own. And so there's a lot of value there. However, one of the things that did not work for me, one of the things that I really struggled with, especially at the end of my corporate career, like the last 4 or 5 years, also because I was moving higher up in the ranks and I had more responsibility and against burnout, but I was burning out in the process. And there's 75 different reasons for that. But that's not what the point is. The point is I was fatigued of overwork and overwhelm. And so when I started my business, I started it with the intention of, right, the thing I did want. I wanted to work a pace that felt really good to me and my skills and my talents. And that meant, for me, not starting working first thing in the morning. I actually wake up pretty early now, but I do not like to work, to like use my brain in that way until a little bit later in the morning. My sweet spot is not first thing in the morning. So I do other things in the morning, in the early morning, that really support me as a person and help me to thrive throughout the day. And also, by the way, it makes me a better coach, right? Because I'm working during the hours that I'm good at work. I've served myself, I'm ready to serve others and kind of get my determined to work in my way, my pace, my number of hours, the number of hours that felt really good to me. I was determined not to work on weekends. I was determined not to work on the evenings, blah, 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 blah. I had all these things I did not want to do because I was frankly tired of doing those things and feeling as though I didn't have, and I would argue that I had a lot more choice and control over myself when I was in corporate than I allowed myself to believe back then. Hindsight is 2020. But back then I felt very not at choice. I felt not in control of my own hours, of my own pace, of my own workload. And so that was one of the appeal, some of the appeal for me of starting my own business. But what I did, and I share this because I think other people do this too in some way, shape, or form. But when I started my business, I was so determined to do it in a flowy way that it's not like I didn't work. I actually, in hindsight now, I actually worked pretty hard my first couple years in business, and I did a lot of things that I'm very grateful for now that and it's not so hard because you've already got the structures in place. So I did a whole lot then. And I didn't have a team my first 2 years, I think. But I didn't push myself out of my comfort zone. I did in terms of networking I did in terms of starting a business in the first place, right? But there were certain like sales elements and certain ways of doing my business that I was just quite frankly so fatigued of from my old career. And I think in hindsight, none of this is about making me wrong, because that was the way that I needed to run my business so that I could move into a more empowered way of doing it after the first year or two. And that was also my way of releasing the corporate, right? And so again, the way that you decide to do this and the way this plays out in your business, it's all for good purpose. Entrepreneurship is a journey, and I'm glad that I swung the pendulum myself in a space where I was willing to be strong enough to put myself out of my comfort zone. And when I did that, that's when I started to go, oh, this is the kind of coach I am, because that's just always been the person I am. I'm the person that speaks the truth. I'm the person that will, with love, show you where your blind spots are. And I really started to move more deeply into the work that I'm doing now, because I started pushing myself outside of my comfort zone. I wasn't overworking. I wasn't overwhelmed. I wasn't doing something I was actually doing it in a way that served me. It was in that sweet spot, as I like to talk about, between like taking that and using it at a healthy space versus taking it and using it to I was tired of pushing myself out of my comfort zone. I had been out of my comfort zone in a negative way, in a maybe toxic way, for sure an unhealthy, maybe is a better way to say it. It was in an unhealthy way for so many years in corporate that I needed to come back to like, no, I'm not going to make myself do anything. Looking at what's happening in your business. And sometimes it means doing the hard thing that might be hard emotionally or hard mentally or new for you. But it doesn't mean it has to be hard, toxic. It doesn't mean it has to be hard and unhealthy. It doesn't, right? So finding the like sweet spot, like I really do think that you need to push yourself outside of your comfort zone. But that was all I had in me at that point in time, right? So none of that was wrong. But can you see how my point here is, in that beginning phase of my business, I was so fatigued of overwork and overwhelm. I was using my business to run away from overwork and overwhelm. And in the beginning, that really served me. And this is where I like to say, like, this is why I think, this is a big reason why I have focused my business on one-on-one coaching. And I know I will bring my group work back at some point, maybe sooner than later. But I think there are so many solutions out there. I'll just call it a solution. I think there's so many solutions out there in the online space, in the coaching space, for various business challenges or ways that we want to thrive more in business. But you have to choose the right solution for the actual problem at hand. And you have to choose the right solution that makes sense for the business owner and the unique business owner's mindset in that moment. So had I been my own coach back then, I might not have pushed me to go out of my comfort zone any more than I already was, because I was recovering, right? I was in recovery. I was not a victim, but I was in recovery. When you use this topic, I was in recovery, and before I was going to be able to find a perfect, healthy, sweet spot, I kind of needed to retract, because I was at the end of that extreme for so many years. I needed to rest. Was just naturally giving myself space that was right for me at that time, right? So had I been my coach, I probably would have encouraged me, me now would have encouraged me then, to practice noticing where I'm safe from overworking, noticing where I don't have, like, giving myself those moments of like, oh, this is really cool. I'm not going to set my alarm in the morning, because I know that I will wake up before my like 11 a.m. call or something. And so I'm going to just give myself the freedom to have so much space from the old way of doing things that I'm going to live so deeply in the new that I'm going to pull that like feeling of responsibility, or that like Sunday night. I used to have the Sunday night dread, right? Anybody who's ever had a career that at any point in time was not feeding them or not feeding them enough, you had I always had the Sunday night dread. I always had that when I was in college and high school too. I needed to dial back. That was a right thing for me. And I feel like I need to speak very softly when I talk about that, right? Because I was overworked, overstressed, blah, 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 overpaced, living in a type B chick, living in a type A world. It was a lot. And so again, the sweet spot for me, I feel like I'm going off on several tangents, but I just think this is really, really important conversation to have. And that's why I'm presenting it in a live, because I think it's sort of a longer conversation to really understand the nuances. But had I been my own coach back then, that was the right methodology for me to follow. That was the right mindset shift for me to make, was to first come back to my own safety and to pull out of overwork and overwhelm. And so the beginning of my business, like that was actually something that really served me. It enabled me to help other people calm down from their stresses, because I was able to be calm and safe in my space, finally. And there was a point in time where I started to realize that some of the ways that I was being was not serving me, because I was blocking off my calendar and not enabling people to set up calls with me, because I was taking so much time that I needed to take away from work. And then I was sending the universe these messages of like, well, I want my business to grow and I want all these new clients, and like, where are they? But then I was with my schedule saying, please don't overwhelm me. Right? So I'm doing the like, come hither and the get the fuck away, right? Like, there are so many times where we put that energy out into the universe, out into our businesses unknowingly. And that's why I'm bringing you back to this conversation of, you might be running away from something in your business, but wanting some element of that. Against what you don't want, instead of just focusing on what you do want, it starts to create that dynamic. So it was really, I had a slow growth in the beginning because of that, right? And that's okay, like no judgment. And again, I think I am now better set up for the right sweet spot pace of work for me. I work a lot more hours now, but that work is much more flowy for me. It doesn't drain my energy. And so the hours don't mean what they used to mean. Like, me working an hour in my business now is so much more joyful and so much less draining than the number of hours that I was working in I'm just going to say at the end of my corporate career. So I'm able to find that sweet spot, and that's where I get to use this as my superpower. I get to use this as my secret weapon, because I've spent so much time working through and experimenting with finding my sweet spot of what is a healthy amount of work, what is a healthy pace for me. Because if I'm not working enough, I don't really like that either. I set this business up. I was having a conversation with somebody the other day. I might have said this in a live recently, because it's been on my mind that I'm dating someone who's retired early. There are lots of people here that don't work or that are partially retired or whatever. And I used to want to be retired. I used to want to stop working. And now I don't have I am not building this business to one day retire. I'm sure one day I will retire, but I'm not building this business to hurry up and make some money so I don't have to ever work again. I would do this for free. I love, love, love my work. And I have now found the sweet spot, and that changes, but I've gotten good at making the adjustments for myself over time based on whatever's going on in my life and my business and my schedule, whatever. I've now found my sweet spot of pace, my sweet spot of the right amount of work before I feel overwhelmed, the right amount of number of hours that I'm working, the right amount of everything that I want to have in my business. I've really started to find, I've really found the sweet spot for me in terms of my pace. So how does that work in my favor in my business? How does that work? Well, guess what? Like, we're doing a workshop next week, which I'll talk to you about in a second, called Creating Spaciousness in Your Schedule. And this is all about everything that I've learned. I also have ADHD or ADD. And so I had to learn how to create a schedule that made sense for me so that I could thrive and not be a slave to my schedule, because I was very much chained to my schedule before. And I was determined not to in this business. But again, how can you take that thing, and we're going to talk, it's mindset work, but we'll talk about that in a second. You take that thing, you work it, you pay attention to it, and it becomes your secret weapon. It becomes your zone of genius. It becomes the thing that you can help people with in the world. Like, one of the things that I do so much with my clients is helping them find and unravel from old ways of doing work that doesn't serve them anymore. Might have served you when you first started your business, but now that you're in this phase, what you did doesn't serve you, and you need to delegate that to somebody else so that you can take time to refresh, so that you can sell some more, and blah, 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 right? To help them unwind from that, to help them unwind from the mindset of hard work is the only way to make money and to do anything, to find a pace that allows you, and it's different for everybody, that allows you to thrive. That's what I get to help my clients do. And you know why I'm so good at it? Because I've done the work myself. I've lived in all the extremes, and I've found for me, and I've played with lots of experiments, I found for me the sweet spot. My sweet spot is not going to be your sweet spot. It's not going to be Susie's sweet spot. It's not going to be Bob's sweet spot. It's not going to be anybody else's sweet spot, but I've learned by experimenting and going through this process for myself what works and what doesn't. And you know what else that means? I can spot this shit from a mile away. I can spot this from a mile away. I could probably go into a restaurant. I do see this. I see this sometimes when I go into brick and mortar businesses. I can pick up on the vibe. I'm also an intuitive. I can just pick up on the energy of what's happening to see how healthy or unhealthy the pace is for the person in front of me, right? Because it's going to be different for everybody that works in a certain business. But that is one of my superpowers. It's one of my secret weapons that you might not even know about me as a business coach, because I'm a business coach, I'm a mindset coach. I help you with anything and everything that's related to scaling your business, or just running your business with more ease. But sometimes it really does come down to finding a pace that works for you. And that takes a process. It takes experimentation. It takes trying things out. But that's how, and this is just one little example, but that's one example of how you could be running away from something in your business. And I still, if you ask me what I don't want in the world, I don't want people who are overwhelmed and stressed by jobs that don't even fulfill them, right? That's a big reason why I started this business and why I serve the people that I serve. But I'm not running around going to corporate buildings and yelling to people to leave their business, to leave their jobs and start their own business that they love, right? That would be a very dramatic example of fighting against what I don't want, right? And corporate careers are not bad. They serve a lot. That's just doesn't work. That's not fulfilling. And that's the other piece. So much of what I'm about, my dear conscious entrepreneurs and creatives, and why I started this business and why I started this Facebook group almost 3 years ago now, is that I believe that we can be fulfilled, be paid beautifully, and make beautiful, meaningful, good impacts on the world without wearing ourselves out, without burning out, without having to overwork, without having to feel overwhelmed, without having to sacrifice the things that we don't want to sacrifice, which ultimately just means that I believe that we can create lives that we love at all levels. And business in this example, and the people that I work with, the people in this amazing group, like business is an element of creating a life that you love. And that includes bringing in good profit. That includes having good teammates that really support you. That includes all the elements, and having that pace that balances out your work life and your personal life and your you life and your family and your kids and your whoever, right? Being able to spend your time in a way that really feeds you. So that's one example. This is probably a good time to say, next week I'm doing another free workshop here in the group, and it's called Creating Spaciousness in Your Schedule. And this is a little bit of what we're talking about today, but we're going to dive into it from a strategy perspective, from a mindset perspective, from a practical standpoint. This is where, when you do the mindset work to understand what's really happening, what's going on in your business, in your schedule that's not serving you, when you understand what's going on underneath, because I can tell you all day, every day to change the way your schedule is structured so that you can work a comfortable pace. But if you don't do the mindset behind what's allowing you to, I don't know, work too many hours because you're trying to people please and overgive to your clients versus just serve them well. If you're not aware of what mindset's happening underneath that, it's going to keep driving you in that pace, or you're going to keep creating the same problems in your business, right? And so we are going to next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I think it's, check the Facebook group, but I think it's 12 p.m. Yeah, it's 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. It'll be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So I basically do 3 lives next week. Please come, please participate. The replays will be still here in the group for a little while, so you can catch up on that. I highly encourage you, if you're struggling with pace, if you're struggling with overwork, if you're struggling with just flow, if it just something doesn't quite feel right, whether you're fully booked in your business or not, whether you have as many clients as you want or not, getting a good structure of a schedule that works for you and that will work for your next level. This is something that happens so often. We have a schedule set for our current level of business, and it doesn't have any space and flexibility to receive more clients when we receive more clients. And so then we're actually like energetically full, but we want more clients, we want more money, and we don't have the capacity to do that. So just because you could serve more clients, I encourage you to find a way to create that spaciousness in your calendar for many, many, many reasons, but one of which will be, if you are not considering yourself fully booked or at capacity, then, and you want more clients and you want more whatever it is that you do, then we have to create spaciousness in our schedules so that we can allow that in. So we're going to cover energy. We're going to cover a lot of mindset. We're going to cover the strategy and the practical of what happens in your schedule, and how the schedule is a really good way, and how you manage your hours and your work is a really good indicator of what your mindset is and how that's working for you and how it's not. So if any of those pain points are you, or if you're just looking to add more flow, there's lots and lots and lots of nuggets in this workshop. So we'll do that next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Please come. You don't have to sign up. You just join the group. It'll be here live in the group. But if you do want Facebook to send you reminders, just go into the event section of the group, and there's an actual event where you can just click that you're going, and then I think Facebook will send reminders and notifications out if that's helpful. Okay, let me just check my notes because I have a couple other examples that I want to share. Well, let's dial back for a second. How do you turn this into your secret weapon? How do you turn this into something that really benefits your business? Robin Roberts, by the way, said, you make your mess your message. And I just love that. I think so many people, I just want to, before I jump into mindset, so many people start businesses out of this mindset of, I don't like this. This happened to me. I want to help people with this thing that happened to me, or that I happened to, or that I created for myself to learn, however you want to look at it from a soul perspective. This is something that happened in my life, and I want to help people with that going forward. Right? That's a lot of people are making their message, right? Are taking something that they experience and then helping others on their journey. That's beautiful. That's, I think, what a lot of us are, not everybody, but I think that's what a lot of us are doing. And so none of this is wrong. However, if we take our mess into it too far, we stop being able to serve the people that we're intended to serve the greatest level that we could potentially serve them. We stop being able to serve ourselves. We might burn out, which then means we can't serve our mission, right? I can't help my clients if I'm a mess on the inside. And we stop being able to make the impact that we want to make. We definitely stop making I see money, I think, is a lot of times a symptom of one of those things not working out, and in our mindset that we're struggling and we're challenging, and then the money just doesn't come, or things start to break and need to be paid for, right? If the money's coming in, maybe there's too much money going out. Whatever the money challenge or symptom, money issues are just a symptom of something else most of the time. So whatever's happening there, if we are bringing our mess and what we don't want into our business, into our strategy, then we are going to suffer. Then we are just not going to be able to run our businesses with as much ease and flow as we have the potential to do. And again, that's so much of what I help my clients do. And so I see this stuff every day, and I see these kinds of examples. And chances are, as you're listening to this, you found a little moment or a little space in your business where you're like, yeah, I'm still like, I created that strategy so that I didn't have to blah, blah, blah. Like, maybe I'm going to make this up, actually. This just popped in my mind, but I have seen this before. Maybe you don't do sales calls because you're afraid of them, right? And so you've built a strategy in your business where people just book online with you, which there's nothing wrong with that, right? On its surface. But maybe you've created a strategy where people just book with you online. They never talk to you because you're afraid of that pushiness that you experienced before, or that you used to have to do in maybe your old job, or whatever it is that you're afraid of, whatever it is that you're running away from. You just created a strategy where you get to like completely avoid sales. But guess what? No business, not even a nonprofit, no business doesn't have to deal with sales. I'm so sorry. That's the point. And sales doesn't have to be messy. And I've done several lives about that. But so sales is really just I'm just offering you the thing that I do, and you can just say yes or no, and then we can work together or not, and that's okay. Like, it's all fine. So that's one place I've seen people, that wasn't on my list, but that's one place that I've seen people, like, it's some version, right? So where in your sales process have you created like seemingly safety for you that really you're just running away from something, or you're not allowing yourself to confront something that maybe just out of your comfort zone, a little uncomfortable, not familiar, because you just need to practice it more. You just need to do a little mindset work around it. What are you running away from? And how can you bring that back into a healthy space in your business so that you can turn that in to your sweet spot, right? How can you, I see so many people with sales is just such a good example. I used this one in the beginning, but I know so many people who teach about heart-centered sales because they were in sales before, or they experienced horrific sales experiences, or they had a really hard time when they started their business doing sales calls. And then when they really got it, and they're like, okay, I can do this differently. I know how to do this differently. I know how to help people do this differently. And by differently, I mean the way that we want to do it, the way that feels good. And so that's what they do for a living, but they couldn't get there by bringing the mess into it. They had to do the mindset work. So the mindset work too, I think you know, I think in the, you know, it's funny. I think in the online space, we talk a lot about mindset work, but I think sometimes people don't, people have a go-to, maybe they don't know what it means. And if you don't, that's a topic for another day. I'll talk about, I think it's about changing your belief patterns and your thought processes. And the ways that you see the world, or the ways that you see business, or the way that you see yourself. But I think we have go-to mindset practices. I've been changing my mindset practices lately, and I've noticed a huge difference in just the impact, because I'm doing it a different way than I used to do it, or than I've been doing it. And I'm just pulling in some old things that I haven't done in a while. But there's something to, you know, even like doing mindset work on your mindset work, so to speak. But when you can look at and have a greater awareness for the thought processes that are driving your decisions in business, that's when you can really, really, really make powerful changes in your business, and sometimes in just seemingly tiny ways, because you realize, okay, I'm running away from something here. I'm using this sales process, or lack thereof, or I'm using this invoicing process, or invoicing process, for example, or this payment structure, to run away from what I don't want, versus to create what I do want and to just add more ease and flow into my business. So I'm going to give you a couple of other examples. I see this sometimes with people who say, I'm not like, I think there's a value in having a pay in full option. Always, there's a huge value in that. I would never say don't have a pay in full option. But there are very few businesses, very few business models, I want to say, where it makes sense to have only a pay in full option. Restaurants. If you sell a product, right? People need to pay for that meal when they eat it. People need to pay for that piece of art that you created when you ship it to them, right? Like, that makes sense. And there are many, many, many service providers, many people who provide an offering that spans multiple, like for me, I work with my clients for either 1 month or 5. If you work with me for 5 months, I have a 5-month payment plan, or you can pay me in full. That 5-month payment plan follows the duration of the service. That feels good to me. But if you've been burned before by somebody, I don't know, not paying, or if you had a payment plan maybe that lasted longer than the 5 months and somebody didn't offer it anymore, which means that you're just making it harder for people to pay you in certain cases, right? Payment plans can be really beneficial for both you. We talked about this in the pricing workshop. Go check that out from last month. But it's in the featured section of the workshop, of the group. But payment plans can be really good for you because you can forecast your income. Payment plans can be really good for other people because they can pay you as they go. And like for me, I'm coaching you for 5 months. Like, it's great if you want to pay me up front. You get a discount if you do that. It feels good to me. But it also feels good to me for me to provide some coaching and for you to provide me payment for that coaching. And then for next month, for me to provide, well, people pay me at the beginning of the month and then I coach them, right? But like, to have that kind of flow in real time, that feels great to me. So I see oftentimes people will make decisions. Oh, the other one I see a lot of times is how they manage what's considered an unpaid invoice and how you manage the follow-up process for that. I've seen people put out, how do I want to say this? Put out invoices that are due, let's say, upon receipt or the next day, and then they follow up the day after, right? So I'm just going to say maybe the payment, let's say the invoice is due on the 1st of the month and it's sent on the last day of the month. Sent on the last day of the month, due on the 1st. And then they have all this work to do on the day of the 2nd of the month to follow up on unpaid invoices. And they create a lot of churn and nervousness and stress about getting those on, because, oh my God, all these people haven't paid. when the truth is you really only gave them 24, 48 hours to pay. And some people need a minute, even if they know it's coming, they need a minute to get to it, right? And so maybe if you send, maybe your payments are due on the 1st, if that feels good to you, but maybe you send the invoice on like the 25th or something like that, and you give people 5 days to pay the invoice. I bet you by the time the 2nd rolls around, you're not going to have as many people to follow up with. Or maybe you decide you're not even going to follow up until the 5th, because even if you okay to pay late, but what is your grace period for a late payment? What, if any, right? Based on your business model, based on if you're on retainer and you're doing work for somebody the 1st through the 5th, that might not work for you, right? So I'm not suggesting that you need to follow a certain format structure, but again, are you doing this because you got burned? Are you doing this because people don't pay on time and you're worried about that and you need to make sure you got your money, right? If you just change this is where I see so many times something seemingly small, a very small change, like I'm going to just send the invoices out a little sooner, and I'm going to not follow up the day that they first start being late. I'm going to follow up on like day 3 of them being late. Then I just released all this work for myself, because now I don't really have to follow up. Because even if people don't pay on the 1st, they usually pay by the 3rd, right? Or whatever it is, right? So where are you taking the thing that you're running away from, the thing that you've been, in this case, burned from, and then making a strategic and practical business decision to, when in many ways you're just making more problems or creating new problems, because you haven't done the mindset work to say, you know what, it's normal in life and it's normal in business for people to sometimes be a day late paying their invoice. And I've just decided in my business, like, that's just not a thing I worry about. Yes, I follow up on late payments, but not like in the first hour, right? I have a reminder on my calendar that reminds me to check on that at a time that feels good to me, to give people grace and space, to not be too rigid, but also to hold boundaries and have set expectations that we do expect on-time payments. And I do, yes, if for some reason somebody doesn't pay, there is a point at which, and I've made a strategic decision around it, there's a point at which I will pause coaching until they can pay. But that's just calm and easy for me. I had to do my own mindset work around that, right? So whatever's happening with you, whatever you're running away from, again, and this can be related to your mission, but you can see it can also be related to something seemingly insignificant and small as my invoicing practices. They're just there. This is just what I've always done. But does it give you a lot of stress? Is there a way to find more ease in there? Let's dial into what mindset you're living with, which might be maybe you're just worried about people not paying because one time or 7 times people didn't pay you. Okay, how can we work on that belief system? How can we work on that hurt? How can we work on healing what happened so that we don't take trauma and things that we don't want and then create business plans and decisions, business decisions based on that, right? So again, this is about quote unquote solving a problem. Many, many times it comes from looking at your mindset around something so that you can heal it at the source, look at it for what it is, solve the right problem, put your time and energy into your mindset, and then the decisions that you make as a business owner will not be driven by your fears. The decisions that you make, and it's so easy to do that when your mess is just flowing through your business. But when you're dialed back into your mindset and you're aware of what thought patterns you have, and you're continuing to pay attention to what's stressing you out in your business, that you can create more ease in, then you have to look at your mindset around it first. The practical and the strategy, when it flows after you've done your mindset work, after you've figured out what's really going on here, what's really going on here and here, then you can make really clear-headed decisions for your business. Then you can make really aligned decisions for your business. Then you can make very smart strategic decisions for your business that will serve you in getting to that impact income goal, that will serve you in finding that flow, that spaciousness in your calendar, that like perfect pace, that sweet spot of the amount of work that you're working and the amount of time that you have away from work. Whatever it is, that when you can solve the mindset, when you can understand the mindset, then you're looking at the real problem, quote unquote. And I don't believe that mindset work is a problem. But we often try to solve with strategy and practical and policies. We're trying to solve things that maybe aren't problems, but they're just problems in our own minds. They're things that we're trying to run away from. They're things that bring us stress. And there's just lots and lots and lots of ways to relieve stress and to add more ease into your business. But it starts on the inside first. It starts at figuring out, looking at the situation from a real truthful standpoint and seeing what's really playing out here. And then wrap up your mindset, clean up, not even clean up, but like adjust your mindset to a healthier way of being. And then you can make that's when that person can say, okay, great, I'm just going to send my invoices out 5 days sooner and follow up 2 days later. Then that gives people a whole week to pay their invoice. And that's pretty good. People are busy. Not everybody's going to be able to pay an invoice within 24 hours, right? So I hope this is helpful. Did I have one more suggestion, one more example? Let me just double check my notes before I go. Yeah, no, we covered everything I wanted to cover and then some. I hope this is helpful. I think this is just a dynamic that I think happens so much in business. It happens so much in life. I think we do that in the dating world, right? Like, oh, this happened once and this guy was bad. And wrong. But I think in business, when you are aware of what's really going on, you can solve business problems with so much more ease. And then you really don't have business problems. You just have adjustments that you get to make over time. And I encourage you, for those of you who are in a space where you've been in business for a period of time, you have a foundation and you're scaling, or you're just looking for more ease and enjoyment, I encourage you to notice that most of the changes that need to happen in your business are going to be incremental, are going to be small, are going to be phased, are going to be little bit by little bit, just a little tweak here and a little tweak there and a little refinement here and a little refinement there, because you've already done all the work to get yourself to this point. Most of the time, the big impacts to a business are a mindset shift and a little tweak to your strategy, or a mindset shift and a refinement in your offer. A little mindset shift and a decision to say, you know what, I no longer serve men and women, I just serve women. Like a little tweak to your niche. A tweak, an adjustment, a refinement is so often the like the surface level change that happens. And what's bigger and more important is to make the mindset shift. And then you can just see, oh, this isn't a problem. I just want to change this one thing, because that's kind of based from old energy. Or I created that invoicing process from something I was wanting to run away from. And now I know what I want. And I'm just not going to see this as a problem. And I really don't want to spend hours every week, every month messaging all my clients to follow up on invoices. That doesn't feel good when they're only a day late, whatever it is, right? So I hope this is helpful. Let me know where you're seeing things in your business. If you don't feel comfortable sharing it here in this semi-private form, you can send me a private message on Facebook. I will happily come and write you back. I'm going to go for now. Please join me for the workshop next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, creating spaciousness in your schedule. I know this will serve you. I also have 2 spots open for one-on-one coaching starting next month. I We'll put the link here in the comments if you're interested. Just hop on a quick call with me, and we'll just discuss like what's going on in your business, why you're looking for coaching, what you're hoping to achieve, what's working, what's not, what feels good, what doesn't. And I'll let you know if I can help you. And if I can't, I will send you to somebody else if I know somebody who can. I'm really good at knowing sort of who's a good fit for my style. And I know a lot of other coaches and people that serve businesses. And so I'm never afraid to point people in the right direction. So no pressure if you want to. And I will also say I've been having conversations with people lately who are looking for a coach in a few months or in the fall. And I'm also open to that. It will, of course, be subject to availability, because once I'm full, I'm kind of at a point where so it would just be when somebody wraps up their coaching then and doesn't renew, then that's when a spot would open up. So I don't know what the availability would be like, but my point is I hired my coach by having a call with her like 6 months before we started working together. I'm looking to bring somebody onto my team in the fall, and I just started the interview process today. So I'm looking really, really far ahead. And I just want to encourage you that if that is you and you're thinking, yes, but I'm not ready, it's probably better to hop on a call with me now, see if we're a good fit, because if it's not, then you're just waiting for no good reason. Or if it is, we can start to really identify when would be a good time. And depending on how far out, I do hold slots for people a little bit further out. So something that we can talk about. And again, that's just something that I've been paying attention to, because that dynamic has been happening a lot lately. Maybe because it's summer, I don't know. But I've been having those conversations with people about, hey, I'm not ready now, but I want to start the thought process so that I can be really clear about what and when I'm ready. And so if that's you, for sure, you can absolutely hop on a call with me, and planning ahead is something that I love to do. So that's always a thing. All right. Have a lovely week. I hope to see you next week on Monday at the workshop. And of course, catch the replays if you can. And also, I'll be giving away a free 90-minute coaching session at the workshop. So participate in the workshop, catch the replays, make sure that you comment if you want to be entered to win that. And I'll talk to you soon. Happy Wednesday.